Newman is already in prison, convicted of actually gunning down Rusty Sneiderman. But was it Andrea Sneiderman who somehow talked him into doing it? And if so, why? Joining me now, I've got my legal dream team. Criminal defense attorney John Manuelian is with us. We've also got, in L.A., Tanya Acker. And joining the panel, HLN contributor and political science professor Jason Johnson. Great to have you all here. Let's do this. Before we even talk, let's listen to Andrea Sneiderman testifying during Hemi Newman's murder trial. And then I'm going to ask you a very important question on the other side.
From leaving work to arriving at the daycare, I think you said you presumed or they indicated that something had happened to Rusty.
Right.
How many times did you call Rusty?
Call Rusty?
Rusty.
0 times.
Why didn't you call Rusty?
Because they just told me something had happened to Rusty. What are the chances that he's going to be answering his cell phone?
Exactly. So, how are Andrea Sneiderman's own words going to come back and bite her? Is she her own worst enemy? Let me go to my guess. And ladies first. Sorry, guys. I know you're standing right next to me, but come on. We've got to go to Tanya Acker first. Tanya, do you think it's her own words that become the best evidence or her own worst enemy?
Yes, Vinny. I mean, you know, I was just listening to that, and I'm kind of putting myself in her shoes, and I'm thinking that I get a call that something's happened to my partner, and if I don't really know what it is, of course, I'm going to be burning up the phone line trying to get in touch with him. It does not make sense. I mean, there are parts of her story that came out during Hemi's trial which are really going to indict her. I mean, you know, she doesn't feel real. Her story doesn't make sense, and there's something, you know, she has the air of a performer about her, which is certainly not going to help her, I think, with the jury.
You know, after Hemi Newman's trial, John, we were all scratching our heads about the way she testified and what it meant. But when you get to trial, you're going to need real evidence because the defense has a place to point the finger. Yeah, the guy who pulled the trigger, the guy who's in prison right now.
Right, but they're going to actually show that she manipulated Hemi Newman, and they could do that by showing the cell phone records. That's easily something that could be verified. They could subpoena those records and show that she actually lied during the Newman trial when she said she didn't speak to him, because there's evidence that said that she did actually speak to him. The subpoena of the records, the phone records, will show what time she called, when she called, the duration of the call, and so forth. And that's going to be an inconsistent statement, which is going to actually help the prosecution in that case.
You know, Jason, this case is about interpersonal relationships, and it's those most intimate ones. It's like boss and, you know, employee.
Right.
It's about husband and wife, and it may be about wife and lover, depending upon how the evidence all comes out. It's going to be difficult for a jury to figure out what exactly is going on here.
Exactly. And look, just because she lied about having an affair, didn't we see that with Clinton? People lie about affairs all the time. That does not mean that you told someone to kill your husband. And I maintain, and all the defense is going to have to do is say this, there's a big difference between her saying, oh, if my husband wasn't here, we could be together, and her saying, go here this time and shoot him in front of my kids.
Tanya's smiling. Why are you smiling, Tanya?
I mean, of course, I agree with Jason. Of course, there's a big difference between those two things. But her story just feels incredible. I mean, the fact that she at first said that she didn't hear about the death until she got to the hospital, and then that story turned to be different. I mean, there are just a lot of inconsistencies.
All right, we got a lot to talk about. You know, HLN is the place to turn to for the most coverage when this trial begins at the end of the month, July 29th. Next, get to know the major players in this case against Andrea